right, aloha everyone. Welcome to your next round of Nerd Fights. Here we are with two heavy-duty competitors, no strangers to the argument game. We've got a couple rapscallions here that'll make an interesting throwdown. But before I introduce them, I'd like to introduce my two judges. I am Alan, Dr. Spachim and Shepard, here to lead this battle, and we've got over here Papa West to my that way. How you doing, Papa?
Alan, I'm doing good. Any day I can be on call with an American hero is great. And also being with you, Alan. That's pretty cool too.
I appreciate that. Yes, and of course that American hero we all know is the Major Payne. How are you doing, sir?
Thanks for that, Minister. I'm like, I got nothing to top that, honestly. It was just American Hero. I was like, God damn, I was just going to say you are a treasure to this world, but wow. Okay. Jacob, Papa West got me there.
Papa West with all the commentary of the beautiful praises and flowery words. But let us now introduce our two competitors. We have, of course, the master of disaster, the arsonist, the legend, Mr. J. How are you doing, sir? Are you ready for this battle?
Like to end my days by drinking a nice cold beverage. And today it is coming from Rocky Mountain glacier water. It is Coors Light. It is the Silver Bullet. No, I'm having a good I'm having a good time. I just got off work. I literally just got home. I've just been bullshitting with Jacob about football and yelling at my girl because she decided that she wanted to go buy a Blizzard from Dairy Queen with my card. Yeah.
All right. So apparently that makes him ready for today's battle against the notorious one, the bearded one. Mr. Nick, how are you, sir? Are you ready for this battle?
I'm not gonna lie to you, Alan. I'm a little thrown off my game. I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that I'm 2 out of 5 final papers deep for this fall semester of my graduate program, or if it has anything to do with the conversation that just took place before we went live. If you know, you know. Regardless, it's always fun to see Jay. It's always fun to argue with Jay. For some reason, you guys just keep wanting me and Jay to argue. Like 4th or 5th time now. So hopefully it goes not as planned.
Well, two master debaters as yourself, of course, we got to pitch you against each other as much as possible. And I think, get ready for the argument here to prep you for arguing your dissertations when your professors read whatever direct you're going to hand them to later. Just kidding. It'll be brilliant. All right. So we all know how this works. We've got a bevy of questions in multiple categories that we are going to sift through. And you guys will have your debating time. You've got your 90-second opening. Then we've got the 5 minutes of back and forth battle. If we have to call a time because there's too much over talking, we will do so. But you two legends, you two experts will not let that happen today. Jay, over talking anyone never happened before, probably never happen again. And then, of course, you've got your 60 seconds closing to wrap it on up. You do have your minute extension should you need it, but two experts like yourself, I don't foresee that happening. Maybe. We'll see. But we're going to go ahead and get it started right from the top. All right? We're going to start with Marvel. In the category of Marvel, which MCU sidekick would you say is the most useful to their partner? All right? And we're going to start with Jay. Oh, Nick? Who wants to start? Well, let's start with Jay. That's because he's pointing to you. No John Canapo on this one. So we're going to start with Jay. As soon as you start talking, your time will start.
All right. So my entire issue with trying to figure out what really kind of constitutes a sidekick in the MCU comes down to a difficulty because a majority of the sidekicks get their own movies. They get their own show. So it was a little bit of a difficult thing. I think I picked one, and it's the original gatekeeper of the Bifrost. It's the original keeper of the Bifrost. It is Heimdall. Heimdall is the definition of a sidekick. He's not in every scene, but he is in crucial moments, and he helps his hero out every single time he appears on screen, even as he lays dying. Heimdall is my choice as a sidekick. Spoilers, Heimdall dies.
And you can see the rest of the time.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Nicholas. Whenever you're ready.
Yes. I picked someone who is not a glorified limo driver. I picked someone who is a part of the family to their hero, who is there for emotional support, for technological support. They're the smartest mind in the MCU that is confirmed. I picked Shuri, the Princess of Wakanda. Succession to the throne should T'Challa, go off and play with the Avengers. She died too, but guess what? She came back. Boom, already better. I think Shuri's the best because she actually, in a fight, Heimdall wins. No questions asked. But as far as who contributes more to what the hero is trying to achieve, I think Shuri is by far the better sidekick, and we can get into it as I yield the rest of my time.
All right, so you have your battles right out there laid in front of us. We've got Heimdall versus Shuri. All right, we will start the time at 5 minutes. Make your choices. Explain your choices, sirs.
Nick, I love talking to you, buddy.
Me too, man.
We have these conversations a lot, even when we're not being recorded. We have these conversations. But you bring up a real good point about Shuri, and I just want to make that very clear. I don't think she's the sidekick in that situation. I think the main focus is on T'Challa, but I think without her, he wouldn't be able to do shit. T'Challa's the sidekick in that situation. She is more the brains of that operation. She is what keeps that alive. Heimdall is the definition of a sidekick. You call him a glorified limo driver, couldn't get to Earth again, couldn't get back to Asgard to save what was left of it from his sister without him. So, like, if we're going from a situation where, like, he helps they help advance the plot, but okay, I'm rambling. Go ahead. You look like you got something you want to say.
I was just going to say, he doesn't get back to Asgard without Heimdall's help. Like, yeah, he tells him where to go, but, like, theoretically, give Thor a spaceship, and Heimdall is useless. And we see this because Heimdall dies, and Thor still continues to be a good hero. I understand your point in saying that Shuri is sort of like the main player, but to me, like, the guy in the chair, that's Shuri. Like, you can be smarter than the hero, you can be more advanced than the hero, but like, these sidekicks just means supporting character.
Remus Lupin gives Harry Potter some of his best lessons for life in a short amount of time, since my opponent wanted to bring up the fact that he's not really in the movies a whole lot. Valid point. But in that time that he is on screen, he gives him cemented life lessons that follow him throughout the rest of his life, to the fact where he takes Teddy Lupin under his wings and holds him as a member of his own family. We're talking about an individual that shaped him into a man that helped him overcome fights. And you want to talk about, Voldemort killing Harry Potter as, this big old good thing. What happened if Lupin didn't teach him the Patronus charm and the Dementors just sucked the soul out of him in the third year when that happens in the movie and in the books? Without Lupin, he wouldn't have been able to get there. Lupin has more of an impact in a story with less amount of time than Voldemort does. Voldemort is just kind of a trash wizard. I'm just saying. Not as like trash and human being.
And there's your time. There's your time, Jay. There's your time. All right. All right. Interesting as we knew it would be. All right, Nick. As soon as you start, it begins.
Yes, Lupin teaches him the Patronus charm, and he becomes a positive male role model in his life. I do not want to undervalue that, but the problem is there's just no quantity. There's nothing integral that Lupin does that leads to Harry's success by the end of the last movie. Everything, every part. You say Lupin like formed him into the man. The person Harry is from like being a kid to where he is now is because of Voldemort. Intention or not, like whether he intended to do that, Voldemort is present in his life from the very moment he was a child and he tried to kill him. He does tangible things like kills the Horcrux, kills other Death Eaters, and he, again, you cannot be successful if there is not someone to be successful over. You say Voldemort's a trash wizard, great, that only helps Harry more. It was even easier for him to beat him. When they fight at the end, like you cannot be successful unless the person you are trying to beat fails. Harry's success has to have Voldemort in the picture. It has to have all of Voldemort's actions leading up to that point. You don't need Remus in the picture. Sirius can fill that role. His father could have filled that role.
And there's a time. There's your time. All right. Very. What's that?
Can we run this one back?
No. Very compelling. Very interesting. Both arguments. I'm going to go ahead and start with the point on this one. Jay, you having the argument with the Patronus, teaching Harry the Patronus, very integral. Lupin's very integral in that moment, but unorthodox as it was, I think, Nick, you made some very valid arguments and points about how, maybe inadvertently, but Voldemort was very, very useful and helpful to Harry, including with killing the Horcrux, and then the Horcrux being Harry, Voldemort had to do it. So I'm gonna give the points to Nick on this one, at least from my perspective. All right, Major Payne, who you got?
Two great choices again. This reminded me. This was just like the last round. Now, Nick, I'm not gonna knock you for choosing Voldemort, because to be honest, when it comes to a protagonist, the hero is not as successful without having a proper villain. But Jay did knock you a bit, saying that Voldemort really wasn't that much of an effective, or at least very contributed to his success. And I do appreciate, and he does strike the fact that Remus in Azkaban gives Harry the lessons to teach him the Patronus, to where it does evidently save him, and also that life lesson of showing that you need to see the light within the shittiness, or the good times in your life. I guess, but when it comes down to it, yeah, it goes. My point follows to the argument you brought up, Nick, which was intention versus impact. And honestly, Remus kind of hits both of them, because his intentions to help Harry also impacted him later in life. And I think when it came down to the scales, it kind of tipped more in Remus's favor when you looked at Voldemort, because he was more of a looming shadow, which he impacted Harry, but having Remus in Harry's life. Okay, I'm going to stop dragging. Jay gets the point. Jesus.
All right, that's 1-1. So a tiebreaker for this round has to go to Mr. West. What'd you think, sir?
And immediately, I hate all four of you. This was another great one. Jay, you had me at Voldemort's a dildo lover. Nick, I'm a little upset you couldn't bounce back from that. But no, again, this is going to be slightest of margins. Very back and forth. Nick, I will say you almost won it in the closing. Your closing was great. I wish you would have done a little bit more of that in the actual argument itself. Because in the 5-minute argument, I'd give Jay just a little bit of an advantage over you. Jay, you also killed it in the closing. Nick, I would have loved to see that fire in the 5-minute argument, because if you did, I would be giving you the point. But no, I have to go with Jay on this one.
All right. So for question number 2, Jay gets your point. So we are now 1-1, which makes it all the more interesting for this third question. All right. And our third one is in the realm of Star Wars. And with the current success of The Mandalorian, what Star Wars character do you think should get their own Disney Plus show? And we're not talking and talking about ones that aren't already confirmed, so not officially anyway. So what Star Wars character do you think should get their own Disney Plus show? And your openings, we will go back to Jay. So Jay, as soon as you're ready, let us know.
What weakened the great Sith Empire? Was it a civil war? Was it a war against Mandalorians? Was it a singular Jedi and his wife named Nomi Sunrider? No, it was infighting. It was weakness. It was pettiness. It was jealousness. It was enviousness. Jealousy, not jealousness. Fair enough. I see you, Dr. Spachemin. It's a long day. Cut me some fucking slack. My choice is Darth Bane, the individual who created the Rule of Two for the Sith Empire. This is literally something that has stood since he created it. Always two there are, a master and an apprentice. This is everything that the Jedi have fought against for a millennia, and it has made the Sith more powerful. It's one of the reasons why Yoda and all of the Jedi in the prequels had an issue seeing everything, because there are only two. And I think to see the origins of why it's only two would be the best TV show out there. Darth Bane is my choice. I yield the rest of my time.
All right, so we've got a choice for Darth Bane. And who is he going up against? Nick, you're going to let us know as soon as you're ready.
Baby Yoda. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Yes, that
One of those things.
I will accept that loss right now. No, I'm kidding.
I believe we all would. All right, Nick. Who you got?
My choice is Revan. Revan of the Old Republic. For those who don't know, he is a character who rides both the light and the dark sides of the Force. What I think we all could stand to gain from a Revan show is something we really haven't seen before in Star Wars. We've seen the people be bad. We've seen the Sith. Rule of Two, great. Sounds like we're excluding a lot of people, a very exclusive club, this Rule of Two. It doesn't sound like a very interesting thing to watch, but what I think does sound cool is following a character over a television show. We're not talking about a movie. Like, we need a lot of time to develop this character. This character is so complex. He's been in the army, and he's, like I said, we've never followed a character that's ridden both sides of the Force. We followed Kylo Ren, who's probably going to turn to the light, but the thing is, when he turns to the light, that's the end. We followed Darth Vader, who turns to the light, but when he turns to the light, that's his end. Like, that's his big climax. We followed people who have gone to the dark side, and it's just not. It's not a fun. Sorry. It would be very interesting to follow a show over multiple seasons where the person we're rooting for switches sides. The enemies change, not because the enemies have changed, but because the person we have come to know changes who they are. It's the definition of character development. It's the definition of character growth, and it's something that I think could play out really well over a Disney Plus series as opposed to a movie, which I think would be better suited for Darth Bane.
All right, and that's your time, right on cue there. All right, so we've got Revan versus Bane, and we will start the 5-minute argument as soon as somebody throws it out. as you take sips of water, both of you.
This is fermented Rocky Mountain glacial water. Yes.
All right.
I'm replaying Coder. As a matter of fact, right now I picked it up for my I bought it on Steam for like $4. Steam, pay me money. I said your name, or at least give me 75% off on the next sale. Revan's not that interesting of a character. I think the idea behind Revan is an interesting character, but you could literally take anybody from the Knights of the Old Republic. We only focus on Revan because Revan is the main character of that video game, and we don't even know it. But as soon as we know it, it kind of loses its whole thing. We don't get a lot about Bane, yet we get a book about Bane. But I think a more interesting TV show would be a Game of Thrones-esque political intrigue drama about a man who goes through and Reigns of Castamir's fucking everybody until there are only 2 left, and it shows the actual power of the Sith. A guy who can't decide whether or not he wants to ride the light or kill that guy who looked at him wrong, or wants to collect gaffy sticks, or just murder every single one of the Tusken Raiders on Tatooine because it's boring. But that's the issue with a character like Revan. You can build a backstory behind it. It's going to be artificial and nobody's going to like it because it's not what that's not what the game was. With Bane, you have a starting point and you can show that, but there is a logical ending to what Revan has, and it doesn't move forward. And unfortunately, that's not what Star Wars is.
One, how dare you bring up Game of Thrones? I'm still very upset about it. 2, we don't know much about the Mandalorian. He's not a very interesting character, but the idea of a bounty hunting kind of world with like a very nice Baby Yoda thrown in there has created a pretty decent show.
Stop using Baby Yoda.
I'm sorry, I'm so obsessed.
I love you, but stop.
Not everyone plays the Star Wars game. All stories, I hate to break it to you, Jay, all stories in the Star Wars universe are artificial. None of this really happened.
Don't you lie to me like that.
You can create an artificial story for Revan that gives him better backstory, but still hold true to what the character's about, riding both the dark and the light side. He has memory issues, and it creates a better show. With Darth Bane, I don't see the show going anywhere. Like you talk about drama and like people whining, complaining within the Sith Empire. It's like where's the people we're rooting against? Like I want a show where the people we are rooting against constantly change because the person we're following is constantly changing. There's nothing to back this up. I'm saying this because it sounds interesting. It's not been done in the Star Wars universe before. We've been following Luke Skywalker. We've been following Rey. Like none of them, they're one note. They're doing what they got to do, and not for a second do we think they're going to change. But how cool would it be to have a season where we set up this great character of Revan who fights for the noble causes, and by the end of the season, he turns and it's heartbreaking. Then we have to watch a whole season where he's bad and people are trying to stop it. We've talked about it before. Like seeing these omnipotent leaders is not an interesting show. Like it's not an interesting story to tell.
We've only gotten that from one side though, and that's just it. Everything about your character is manufactured from the moment we meet. Well, yes, but if we're looking at it from a story point, if we're looking at it from like, if we're taking it from like Darth Revan, Knights of the Old Republic, which is where everybody knows Revan from because it's the only thing anybody ever talks about when it comes to Revan. Everybody,
very small. It's not everybody.
It's a very small. Everybody.
A lot of people watching The Mandalorian right now who have no idea what a Mandalorian is, who think Baby Yoda is actually Yoda.
Those aren't Star Wars fans. Most of them aren't Star Wars fans. I will say that, and that's not derogatory towards them. But what I'm saying is yes, we've followed good people, but we've never seen the story from an evil side. We've never seen the evil perspective. What you're saying, you want to toe a line. That's just it. Revan is not the fucking gray Jedi in that story. They actually created a better character in Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords. That is the Grey Jedi character, and that's what Treya was trying to teach that character. Vandar, Rook, and everybody else really doesn't do a whole lot for Revan personally, and I will use my minute to close out actually. In the closing.
All right, and that is the time for your debate. All right, very interesting, compelling arguments for both. But we will start with Jay, and you're going to use your extension for your closing.
I'm going to.
All right. All right. So, all right, Jay, when you're ready, let us know your closing statement.
I will start with a quote from Darth Bane. The Sith killed each other, victims of their own greed. But from those ashes of destruction, I was the last survivor. This is a man who set out on a singular mission to make the Sith Empire great again, for lack of a better term. And what did he do? For a millennia, he did exactly that. He created a lasting rule that scared the shit out of an entire population of Force users. There are only ever two. You got to be the sneakiest. You got to be the smartest. You got to be the strongest. You got to be the most willful. I want to see the formation of the rule of two as a high fantasy-esque TV show set in outer space. I won't use those words because I know they are trigger words for you. But to me, that's more interesting than watching a character whose main ability is choosing a dialogue option, and most people pick the light side. They'll obviously create another save file to choose the dark side. But I would much rather see an individual who appears in the Clone Wars 1,000 years later as a Force ghost or as a Force apparition, something that the dark side has never really been able to do, because that's how fucking much of an impact this character created on the Force itself, the living and the spiritual force. I think following that character would be more entertaining, would create a better TV show, and would last a hell of a lot longer. Regardless of whether that's something that you want or not, more Star Wars is always a good thing, in my opinion. Darth Bane is my choice. I still think that that is the best thing that we could ask for, Star Wars-wise, for Dark Jedi. Darth Bane is the right choice.
All right, and right on time. Good work. All right, Nick, let's hear yours.
First of all, in the Clone Wars, Yoda beat that Darth Bane better than Pennywise in It Chapter 2. All he did was say, "You don't exist," and then he disappeared. It wasn't that hard. Darth Bane's not that interesting of a character. I hate to break it to you. You can say high fantasy. We all know you mean Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones did not end well, okay? And we don't need to see something like that again. That's been done. Like, we've seen the bad guy in charge, and we know how it ends. Like, Darth Bane comes out on top. We know where it's all going. What I want is a character with great foundation. Revan has great foundations. Yes, there's a game, but the show doesn't have to be incumbent to the game. We can create a backstory that people may love. You know, it doesn't just because it's different than the game and what some people know doesn't mean it's going to be bad. And what I want is something we haven't seen in the Star Wars universe yet. We've seen the evil people trying to take over. We've seen the emperors doing their thing and literally installing an empire, which is what you're talking about. We've seen that. What I want to see now is a character who toes the line between light and dark and has different seasons, because we're talking about a TV show. We're not talking about a movie. We're talking about a TV show that needs to go different places in order to stay relevant, in order to stay interesting. And this TV show can go those different places if the character is willing to shift and willing to change. And what I like are good TV shows that make us like love a character and then hate a character and then love to hate the character. And that's something Revan can be because he's been established as that. And that's not something Darth Bane can be. Like, we're not going to be rooting for this guy to establish the Sith, especially if we already know he's going to do it. You know, the rule of two is great. But guess what? It's boring. It's kind of exclusive. And I don't need to see the drama of the Sith way back when. I want to see something cooler in a cooler time like the Old Republic. And I want to see a character like Revan do that. I will yield my 8 seconds because Jay.
I'm having an aneurysm over here.
No aneurysms. No aneurysms. All right. So
strike my
we've heard both. We've struck it. We've heard both arguments, both closings. Compelling, both. We're going to throw it to Major Payne this time to start. And up, I know it hurts you, sir. It hurts you, but work through the pain, Payne.
Oh. Yeah, I've not heard that before. Ugh.
I bet you haven't.
No, it hurts because I love this argument. I mean, both of these characters are completely fascinating to me, and these are great choices here. So I'm really torn. I took more like notes on this than all the other ones, and so this one's gonna take me a while. But I think ultimately, both Nicholas and Jay had great pitches for their characters. With Darth Bane, we get to see the fall of the Sith Empire, which ultimately leads the character to create the now established Rule of Two, and also the intention behind it and the impact it leaves on the galaxy. I love that. And then Nicholas, the idea with Revan being this character who, and of course, one of the things that could have knocked you down was Jay hitting you with the game, but he did bounce back. You did bounce back by saying that the show doesn't have to endear to the game within your closing. But oh my god. Okay, I'm just gonna get down to the nitty-gritty of it.
There you go.
All right. When it came down to it was just the pitches of both of your stories, and oh god. I'm gonna have to say the idea of a character like Revan who can go not just flip-flop between both sides, but the story of wherever you start Revan, he can start from the light, he can start from the dark. You can create a narrative there to where your audience can definitely want to love this character. With Bane, you know exactly who he is and where he starts from. So I'm guessing with the idea of the show and the intrigue, especially if this is going to be a multi-episode show or a multi-season show, I'm going to go with Nicholas for this one, with Revan. Ugh. All
right. Took some time to get there, but we got there. Thank you, Mr. Payne.
God.
All right.
Mind-boggling.
Hey, okay, it was mind-boggling. All right. Papa West, was your mind as boggled?
Oh, my mind is still boggled. Oh, wait, 1 second. I'm getting a phone call. I have to take this real quick. Hello? Yeah, Mr. Iger? Oh, call you Bob. Okay, got you, Bob. Yeah, no, I'm going to shoot you that link. It's 2 great ideas. Check minute 30 to 50. Gold. I'll get you their contact information. We'll get it all going. Okay, Bob, you have a good one. Sorry about that, guys. Little bit of business. Jay, Nick, are you all right if I give someone personal contact information for y'all?
I suppose.
Okay, I got a thumbs up, and I suppose. No, so this comes down to which show would I be more interested in watching? And I cannot use that judgment because I would love to watch both of these shows. You have Darth Bane, one of the characters who is technically canon, who needs so much more because he's gotten 30 seconds in the Clone Wars, and Revan, another character who needs to be in canon. Nick, I will say you almost lost me with the with the towing from the light to the dark and then back to the light. Because whenever you start having that character switch back and forth, side to side, you start to hate him. And then you said, you're going to love him. You're going to hate him. Then you're going to love to hate him and hate to love him and all that good stuff. Jay, I really wish you would have attacked that and just said, he goes to the other side, and you're going to start having people with pitchforks, torches, ready to destroy Disney Studios wherever they are. Again, this was another fantastic match. I hope both of these are a thing, but I am going to have to give the slightest edge to Nick.
All right. So with that, Nick gets the 3rd point. I would give my 2 cents, but it's not worth much at this point. Although I would have. Both were very good arguments, both very compelling. Bob doesn't have my number, so I couldn't give him you guys' contact. Sorry. But I think for me, Nick, you kind of got it with the closing for me. If my point would have counted, I think you got it with the closing. So that, but again, it doesn't really matter. All right. So that means we're down to the wire.
I have a lot
down to the last question.
Later.
Last question counts, as it were. And it's from everybody's favorite pocket of the nerd universe, the Doctor Who-averse, or the Whovians, or whatever you like to call them. That's another thing. All right, so our final question here is, from Doctor Who universe, which actor or actress best portrayed their version of a real-life historic character in the Doctor Who franchise? So which actor played the best real-life character in the Doctor Who franchise? And we're going to start with Nick. And sir, give us your choice when you are ready.
Sure. Well, Doctor Who's on first, Doctor What's on second. I don't know who's on third. So, my choice is Mr. Dean Lennox Kelly as the reviled author of his time, William Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare's a hard role to pull off, especially, I know it's been done a lot. It's done by a lot of people, so it's really hard to sort of make it your own. I think Dean Lennox Kelly does a really great job of that in Doctor Who. He sort of adds unique people are yelling again. He sort of adds unique little personality things that it's reasonable to believe Shakespeare, especially in this universe, would have that hasn't come through in other Shakespeare performances. So because of the mountain decline, because of all the other people who have played Shakespeare, I think Dean Lennox Kelly does a really great job of making the role his own and making the character memorable, even though we've seen it before. So that is why Dean Lennox Kelly as Shakespeare is my answer.
All right. And that is your time, your answer. And Mr. J, when you're ready, sir. Yeah.
Start the clock, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. You couldn't hear me. I was making fun of
Clock
you.
is
No,
started.
I really wasn't.
Oh,
No, okay. Well, this is a big question. But to me, Tony Curran's Vincent van Gogh. Van Gogh is the finest painter of them all. Certainly the most popular, great painter of all time. The most beloved. His command of color, the most magnificent. He transformed the pain of his tormented life into ecstatic beauty. Pain is easy to portray, but to use your passion and pain to portray the ecstasy and joy and magnificence of our world, no one has ever done it before, and perhaps no one ever will again. To my mind, that strange wild man who roamed the fields of Provence was not only the world's greatest artist, but also one of the greatest men who ever lived. It's Dr. Black. It's a quote. It's 100 words or less why Vincent van Gogh is legitimately the greatest the greatest historical portrayal in an episode of Doctor Who. You have Tony Curran, a crazy wild man that you might know from Westworld or other places. Tony Curran is the correct choice. He literally made Vincent van Gogh's mental illness and his love of life pop on screen in Doctor Who.
All right. And that is your time, sir. Okay. We've got two artists to be argued for, the bard and the painter. All right. So in your own words, let us battle this out when you two are ready. Begin.
Would you say to be or not to be argued? That is the question.
First of all, I'm pissed because I thought you were coming up with that off the cuff. I thought you were this is pure poetry right now.
It is, and it, you know what? It succinctly describes Tony Curran's character to a T. He took a character, he took a historical figure like Vincent van Gogh, who had medical issues, who didn't really get talked about, who really was kind of a pariah of his time. It's stated in a lot of different places. During his time, nobody really gave a fuck about his art, but they took that. They took that character. They took the worst parts of him and they put it on display. I'm sorry, what's his name? Harry Dean Lennox?
Dean Lennox Kelly.
Dean Lennox Kelly. I got 2/3 of the name. Give me credit. They do something in that episode, and I rewatched both of these episodes today. They do something in it's called the Shakespeare Code. Because get it, it's like a play on Da Vinci Code, and they thought that they were being smart about it. They really weren't. They kind of make a really kind of funny line where he kind of flirts with the doctor, and 57 different scholars just pump their fists in the air because, get it, he might have been bisexual. Ha 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 ha. But you have the doctor quoting things to him the entire time as anachronistic as it might be, he's like, oh, I'll use that, or I'll use that. No, you can't use that one. That's somebody else's. They're literally lowering the standard of this character by saying that he is basically taking words from other people, stealing them, and it's mine now.
So the episode itself, the writing of the episode, the events of the episode, I don't really think necessarily need to factor in here, because we're talking about the performance of the real life historical character. I think Dean Lennox
in that specific episode, though.
What was that?
In that specific episode, though.
Yeah. But like, it's still the performance. Like, you can have a good performance in a bad movie. You're gonna have a good performance in a bad episode of TV. Like, just because it's written poorly doesn't take away from the performance. Dean Lennox Kelly really captures the eccentricism of Shakespeare. He just like Van Gogh is an artist who's he's tormented, but in a different way. And he needs to express it. And Dean Lennox Kelly really does a great job of doing that. And I get there's some poor off the cuff written jokes like that really don't land. But the thing is, Dean Lennox Kelly really sells you as him being Shakespeare. My issue with Tony Curran as Van Gogh is a person who is tormented, but it doesn't get shown through personality. It gets shown through his art. It
gets shown through personality.
What's up?
It gets shown through personality multiple times throughout that episode.
In the episode, but Van Gogh as a person, that's not who Van Gogh was.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, they have. They've created it. Psychology Today has created an entire psychological background to him, that he was mildly schizophrenic and manic depressive. And Tony Curran took that and used that to create that character. You can see it in the episode. When he goes through a manic episode, he screams at the doctor to get out. He thinks that he's just another head doctor. Tony Curran has taken what has been created by historians and said, hey, look, this is the most historically accurate that we can get for that character. I don't agree with that statement.
Okay, that's fair. I disagree. I think a tortured artist is a little more nuanced, and I think Tony Curran's a little bit out there with his performance. I think it's actually a bit much. If anything, it's sort of distracting in the episode. Whereas Dean Lennox Kelly fits right in, like he does his job as William Shakespeare. That's what a good acting performance is.
That's another thing that I'm going to kind of have to disagree with. Not that his acting is bad, but he's not Shakespeare. He's literally just stealing shit from the doctor. That's really what it comes down to. There's not a lot of character there. They're like, hey, look, it's 1599. He just performed Love Labor's Lost. Then we have to perform Love Labor's Won. And now we have a reason as to why it doesn't exist, but we don't get a whole lot from him. And then I'm sorry, this might be nitpicky, but he ends his thing to get rid of the Carianites with Expelliarmus again, stealing from another fucking author, and it ends with a good old JK. Like, he is the bard. That's exactly who he is. He would have been able to come up with words on his own, but using a word like that, to me, that detracts from a character. Tony Curran, on the other hand, played the intricacies of a mentally ill individual. His speech about the Starry Night, the colors you see, black, I see dark blue, I see this, I see that, really speaks to that individual and the psychosis of that man.
All right, and that's your time.
Sorry, buddy.
That's your time.
Oh, no, you're fine. All good.
All right. Chivalry on both sides. All right. Good arguments both. These closings are gonna be pretty interesting, pretty important. And we throw it back. Or no, Nick.
I think I started.
Yes.
So I think
Nick started.
So Jay.
Yes, Nick. Jay goes first. Yes. There we go. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. So Jay, you're closing when you're ready.
It's always a delicate situation when you have to play an individual who has a mental ailment, and Tony Curran nails it in this episode, this overly produced, kind of underfunded TV show that doesn't get enough credit for what it's done for science fiction. They took a character who had nothing in his time, showed us why he was memorable, showed us why what people thought of him at the time and what people think of him at this time, and still created one of the best performances of a historical figure of all time. Tony Curran not only looks like Vincent Van Gogh, he embodied Vincent Van Gogh in this episode of Doctor Who. He became this person. It is amazing to watch, and this is one of the most emotional episodes, and I don't think it would have that depth without him as that character.
That is your time. All right, Mr. Nicholas, when you're ready, sir.
Sure. So all the gripes Jay had with Shakespeare was in the writing. It wasn't in the acting. And the question is the acting. And I really do think we need to take outside influences into effect. There have been so many Shakespeares. And the fact that this one is memorable for whatever reasons, he is the bard. He would come up with inspiration around him, which would make sense why the Doctor was there. Like, that's a natural thing Shakespeare would do if he met someone from the future. It's a unique take on a character that's been portrayed several times. It's not going to be hard to make Van Gogh memorable. We've never seen him before. We don't know what he was like. We weren't there. You can have your charts and you can have what people say he would have been like, but the fact is we've never seen it before. It's not going to be hard to be memorable. And in my opinion, if you're basically creating a character from the ground up with a backstory, but you're creating it, and it came off a little strong. It was a little bit overacted. And it didn't quite fit in with what I think the rest of the show is about. And honestly, Dean Lennox Kelly did a much better job acting in the episode he was in. Is it a lesser episode? Maybe, but the fact is the performance is better. It's much more on point, and it's unique to the point where it differentiates itself.
All right. That's your time. Okay. Interesting. Both arguments. Two well-known fictional characters chosen. I'm going to start this here. I think
Fictional characters?
They're not
Oh, two historic characters. Yeah, sorry. Historically fictional. No. Two historical characters that are both well known, but who portrayed them the best, more accurate. I think, Jay, you were getting a little too caught up in the writing, and then Nick put it back on point. We're talking about the betrayal, the actual acting. But then once you heard that, Jay, you corrected it and showed us some very scientific-based, research-based aspects of the acting and why it was important. And then the emotional depth pulled from it, from the actor in your closing. So point-wise, I'm gonna give it to Jay. All right, Papa West, what you think? Where are you going on this one?
Yeah, so to translate what you were saying, Alan, when you called them fictional characters, neither of them have ever been to space, so they're not really in your book. I get you.
Exactly.
Thanks. Jay, I will say I have one big issue with what you said. You made the comment that Van Gogh is the most popular artist. He does not have a Ninja Turtle named after him, so is he even an artist?
That's a valid point. That is a valid point, sir.
In all fairness, all of the Ninja Turtles are based off of Renaissance painters. He was not around during the Renaissance age.
Oh, that's a good comeback.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, but we're not arguing. You're arguing with Papa. You're not arguing with him.
You will lose this argument.
Continue, sir. Exactly.
Let's stay
Continue.
on point. Let's stay on point here.
Jay, I can't wait till I get to argue you finally. But anyways, let's get back to the real deal. And who gets this point and why. This whole fight has been very back and forth. I will say I'm not disappointed in this show, but I will say this has been the easiest decision for me. Jay, you're going to get my point, plain and simple. But you took a character who we haven't seen a lot about. That actor was able to portray him how he was in real life. Nick, I love how you were trying to fight back. All this is about the writing. Let's look at his portrayal. You can still take bad writing and turn it into a great performance. And Jay was able to knock you down just a little bit on that. So I am going to give my point to Jay on this one.
All right. So there you have it. Jay gets the point. Major Payne, where have you fared on this one?
Okay. without a doubt.
Yeah. All right, simple. I guess short and sweet.
It's mainly because he gave more on not just Tony. I mean, Nick did knock him on the writing, but at the same time, I mean, of course, in my mind, writing does contribute to the portrayal of a character. But luckily, Jay did bounce back by talking about how Tony Karan used the acting to really show Vince's struggle. And honestly, when this question came up, I was out. Vincent Van Gogh was the first to pop in my head. Second behind him was Ian McNeice, who portrayed Winston Churchill. So it was those two completely.
Those were literally the two that popped into my head. I was like, okay.
Let me save everyone some time about thinking about this too much further. I was going to save this. I've never seen a single episode of Doctor Who. I don't know who we're talking about.
We're opposed to you, man. You argued.
By the way, it wasn't Psychology Today. It was the New York Post.
The New York Post. So it's all fiction anyway. All right.
But let's be honest.
The
dude cut off his ear. There was something not.
There was
not
something wrong there. Yeah.
There.
Manic depressive affective would have been
that wasn't even
the proper diagnosis.
Yeah.
As a former counselor, as well as a counselor to people in space, manic depressive would have been, just scratching the surface. All right, so we are at an impasse. We are at the speed round because we've got 2 Jay, 2 Nick. So,
pretty funny.
How do we decide who gets what answer? Like, are we just yelling out answers?
So Alan is going to read the question, or is going to think of the question. He's going to say it twice.
Okay.
After he says it the second time, y'all say your name.
Okay.
Whoever says their name first, we're going to call on you. Give us your answer. If you speak, just like movie fights, if you speak first, you go first.
You go first.
Cool. Sounds good.
Okay.
And remember, Jay, wait until he reads the question twice.
Twice.
Oh,
Twice. All right. So it's true to being unprepared. As a true speed round, thinking on your feet, and 2 game competitors such as yourselves, you should be able to think on your feet quickly and with reasoned arguments, given the time constraints. I want to know from inside here, in the heart, if you had to choose a Pokemon to have in real life as your partner, who would that Pokemon be? Again, if you had to choose a Pokemon as your real life Pokemon partner, who would that Pokemon be?
I love this question.
Well done, Alan. Well done.
That's a good question.
I love this question.
Okay, now quit trying to get his appreciation and just say your
exactly.
name and give us your answer.
Now your name and answer.
Yeah, we'll get.
So I am going to do a 10-second count. In these 10 seconds, you better tell me your name and then tell me the name of a Pokemon.
Got it.
You're getting me super upset right now.
So upset the papa.
I swear, God, I could pick a Digimon and I can still argue better than these 2 right now in the speed round.
Right? Come on.
Jay.
Nick, yes.
Oh my, y'all are horrible. Jay, what is your answer?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You gotta have one.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with my favorite Pokemon of all time, Charmander.
Okay.
Nick.
My answer?
Nick.
Squirtle.
God damn you.
Was it so goddamn hard, guys? Come on.
Yes. You went through 20 minutes. All right.
To get second and third Pokemon.
Give a Pokemon.
Exactly. 2 and 3.
Can you repeat the question, Dr. Spachemin?
The question was, in your heart of hearts, there it is. In your heart of hearts, which Pokemon would you choose as your Pokemon partner? All right, we have an answer from Jay and from Nick. Took some time to get there, but we finally got them. All right, so who's going to go first on this one? We believe it was Jay, because Jay answered first.
So he goes first.
All right, Mr. Payne, you're on the time.
Yep.
Okay. It begins, Jay.
35,
when you
30,
begin.
25.
45, 30, 20. 45,
And
30,
you're opening-
20.
In your opening, you both have 45 seconds. Then when
Okay.
it gets to your rebuttal, you got 30. And then your closing
30.
is 20.
And
Okay,
in
there it
your
is.
opening, we ask that you do not attack your partner's choice.
Yeah, no.
Because that is mean and
Your
uncalled
opponent's
for.
Exactly.
Partner.
It's mean.
You thought this was a competition. This is a team effort, guys.
It's all love, baby.
Yes.
It's all love. All right. Jay, when you're ready.
Now, when I choose a Pokemon, I'm not choosing a Pokemon that is going to be all powerful. I'm not looking for evolution-wise for a powerful Pokemon. What I'm looking for is a Pokemon that speaks to me. And maybe as a burn victim, this Pokemon speaks a little bit more to myself, trying to keep myself alive throughout the years as an individual who's been afflicted by this. I think keeping a Pokemon like Charmander would be the best because it's not the most powerful, and if its Flametail goes out, it's almost like owning a cute little puppy that can burn the entire town down. But fire is both restorative and destructive, and I think having a Pokemon that can bring balance like that is one of the best things that you can possibly ever have.
Time.
All right. Time. All right. So we've got Jay with the Charmander. And now, Nick, when you are ready, sir.
I know we said no attack shot in the first, but those are all my arguments. Like I picked the Pokemon that speaks most to me. Water heals. Water is necessary for life. If you are dying of thirst and you have your Pokemon partner with you, guess what? You're not dying of thirst anymore. Squirtle is, and he can fend for himself. Like if we're actually doing the whole Pokemon battle thing, he's not useless. But Squirtle is by far cuter. You want to talk about puppy? Turtles are adorable. I had a turtle growing up. Turtles are absolutely adorable, especially Squirtle. Squirtle's adorable. I would love to have him on my side. I'd love to carry him on my shoulder. He's got a shell for protection, and he heals. Water is better. I would prefer a Pokemon that can give me water if I need it, something that I will actually use. And
Guess that's time.
And that's your time, man. Your last 2 seconds. All right. So we've got the classic fire versus water. Charmander versus Squirtle. All right. Let's hear the passions a little more, gentlemen. All right. A little bit more why we should choose you and your passion with your Pokemon partner.
Remember, you got 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah, Jay's going to start. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
He is lighting a cigarette.
As he gets fire going right now. All right. Props, sir. Really? All right.
Let me read from the Pokedex. No. Okay. So if we're gonna sit here and we're gonna talk about healing and we're gonna talk about restorative properties of Pokemon, your Pokemon doesn't have any of that. Your Pokemon can't learn a move that can heal it. You're not going to want to molest your Pokemon in order to get water from it. So let's not let's not go there.
Anyway.
See, but here's the thing about that though. Regardless, you can be dying of thirst, and it still comes down to the fact that you have to manipulate your Pokemon in order to do that. You talk about a Pokemon that's never going to leave you that looks cool. What about the Squirtle Squad, who ultimately ended up leaving people and formed their own thing without it? At least Charmander wants to actually be around somebody.
Time.
I would
Time.
Okay.
I literally
All
closed
right.
the screen. Sorry, guys.
No
That's
worries. No worries. You can still hear us. All right. Nick, when you're ready, 30.
not all Squirtles are the same. How dare you assume my Squirtle will leave me? He's going to love me because I'm going to be good to him. I don't have to do anything. He can just produce water. There's nothing unnatural about the Squirtle doing that. It has healing properties. If you have a burn, water helps that. I know, I was a lifeguard. He doesn't need magical healing properties. Water in itself is healing. There is nothing practical Charmander can do for you. Fire would not help you in any practical situation. Squirtle's much better. He's much more adorable. He's much cuddlier, and he's much
Time. All right. Time. Interesting. Okay. Now, Jay, you got 20 more seconds to close this out. Why are you choosing Charmander?
campfires, cooking fires. Charmanders choose who their tail actually burns. So if we really want to talk about cute and cuddly, Charmanders can be exactly that. Squirtle was introduced in the Squirtle Squad, an individual who not only joined of his own volition, but then left because he didn't want to be around his own trainer anymore. Yeah, your Pokemon will abandon you.
Time. All right. Nick, why is Squirtle the one?
Not all Squirtles are the same. He's not going to abandon me. There's nothing Charmander can bring to anyone else. It won't help anyone else's life. Like, no one wants fire, but everyone likes water. Everyone will want to drink water. Everyone can be healed from water. Everyone wants to go swimming. Everyone wants to see a cute, cuddly turtle-looking thing. Everyone wants to cuddle it. Everyone wants to hold it. It'll be on my shoulder. It looks so cool. I'm so big. Look at the little Squirtle on my shoulder. Charmander sucks.
And that's the time. All right.
Friendship
Interesting.
over, sir.
Interesting. Wow. All right. Of all of the Pokemon, we got Squirtle, Charmander, Papa West. I'm gonna throw it to you first.
Yeah, I'm gonna take like 5 minutes to deliberate with myself to
Oh,
see
yeah,
who
I'm
actually
sure
gets
you
it.
will. I'm sure you
This
will.
is called
But
payback.
Let's not
yeah.
pay him back. We are better than that, sir.
That's completely
So-
fine. I will be right back then.
No, he's not gonna take 5 minutes.
I'm not going to. It was a
Oh, I
not
know. I
going
really
to.
have to use the bathroom.
Okay, go use the bathroom.
Go use the bathroom.
We can do this without you, Jay.
Are we there yet?
To use the bathroom?
Go
Depends. All right, Papa West. What do you think? Who gets your
You're
points out of these two entries?
He needs some depends.
He
So,
does.
quick fact check with the K, not a T.
Yeah.
So Squirtle, whenever he uses water gun, bubble, all those water moves, they come out of his mouth. No other orifice, so I don't know why you would have to molest him to get water out of him. So Jay, I don't really know where you're coming from with that argument. But anyways, going with the two choices, Nick, your biggest argument was fire is useless, and Jay came right back with you with campfire, cooking fire.
Okay.
He took you down, and then in your closing, you were still trying to say no one uses fire when Jay immediately proved you wrong at the beginning of his closing. I really wish you would have thought of something else to say on that. Both these guys are cute and cuddly, so that's another kind of moot point whenever it comes to saying which one is better. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give my vote to Jay on this one, even if he's not here to accept the votes.
All right. All right, and I know he's not going to like this, but Mr. Payne, bring the pain to one of these guys. Who gets your point, sir?
Both were great picks. Surprised we took this goddamn long to get here. Not a knock on you two guys. That was a difficult question to ask. Mostly for me,
Yes.
I would have gone within the 3 generations because I stopped playing Pokemon after Gen 4. But okay, now all of that taken out, looking at the focus of these arguments, with the question in your heart of hearts, who would you choose as your Pokemon? In Jay's opening, he gave really good details, a really good story, background onto why he would choose Charmander, and of course his personal story too, which added a lot to his argument. And Nick, I do like your choice as well. I mean, in the closing, you definitely did start to bring a little bit of your personal background as a lifeguard into how you would connect with Squirtle. But Jay had you on the ropes there with Squirtle to where you kept repeating not all Squirtles are the same. He mentioned Squirtle's story of the Squirtle Squad. If you had, he got you like pretty much in a boxing match. He had you in the corner for a while, and if that bell didn't ring, you would have been stuck on that corner, man. So I apologize, but Jay's getting the point.
I don't know shit about Pokemon. I don't know.
All right. Having said that, and now that he's back from the
I didn't hear
restroom,
anybody say anything.
anybody say anything. So you'll
say
hear
what
it.
you gotta get.
You'll hear it from me.
Yeah,
You'll
you're gonna
hear it from me.
The doctor will let you know.
Doctor is going to speak, and your winner, the arsonist himself,
What?
Jay
It's you.
Burnz.
I was talking.
You won.
Your
Now
love
really
of fire,
curious to hear
sir,
everybody
even though
talk
fire
about-
will slowly kill you, you have risen from the ashes like the phoenix itself, and you have won this round, this nerd fight. It was a good fight, but Nick, very good job, excellent arguments all around. But Jay is ultimately our winner. So before we go to talking to each of the competitors, let me throw to the judges. How did they think both of these guys did? What were your overall feelings of the match itself? Papa West, how were your feelings on this matter?
Man, this was a great match. Again, Nick and Jay, we always try to get them to go up against each other because it's always a fantastic match. Seeing the two of them fight it out. I can't wait for them to actually meet in person and physically fight it out. Just to finally end the conflict, see which one is truly better. No,
Nice.
this was a great fight between the two. Anytime Jay and Nick go at each other, I always want in just to watch because of how great it is, and this was no exception to that.
Couldn't agree more. All right, Ryan, what were your thoughts overall of tonight? After that major yawn, apparently you put him to sleep, gentlemen.
Not in a bad way, that's for sure. You guys are really exhausted being here. This was a great match. Every question really, I mean, you guys definitely showed passion. I loved every question here to where, if this was a three-way match, I would have loved to have been involved in this so that we could have made the judge's decision even harder. I do have to admit, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if these guys will meet up again in Nerd Fights or any other freaking league we have here in TMG. I am terrified whoever is going to face either Jay or Nicholas in the future. So it's definitely going to be very interesting. I mean, I want to say more on this, but I want to drag out time here. I'm afraid another yawn's coming.
All right, before you go back into your deep sleep, because I know you need your beauty rest, let's go ahead and talk to the unfortunate non-prevailer of the night, and that would be Nick. Nick, you had some great arguments tonight. How do you feel you did overall?
I feel like I did really good. Listen, I know nothing about Doctor Who, never seen a frame of that TV show. So the fact that I was able to convince you all that I knew at all what I was talking about makes me really proud of myself. I also know nothing about Pokemon. So in the very second I said fire has no practical uses, I was like, crap. Why did I say that? The whole point of Avatar is that firebenders aren't just like destroyed. And I was like, idiot. I know like 3 Pokemon total, so I was just waiting to see which one Jay picked, and then I was going to pick the other one. That's why it took so long. But no, overall, it was real fun. I stand by my Voldemort choice, though I would have given Darth Bane to Jay, so it all evens out, and it's always a fun time. And yeah, I'd love to keep doing it again.
Excellent, sir. Well, you'll definitely be seen again. You're quite skilled at the verbal acrobatics. All right, but the most skilled, at least for tonight anyway, was Mr. J. Mr. J, how are you feeling on your victory?
Look, anytime that me and Nick can be cordial and still say dumb shit like Charmander sucks or Mr. Tom a dildo lover is a win in my book. I love having conversations with this dude. I always walk into a fight expecting to lose 1 or 2 of the questions, especially in like a 4-round one, and hoping that I can at least be convincing enough to spout half bullshit, half facts, and make it, a coherent argument. So the Marvel one, yeah, 100%. I was willing to lose. I was a little mad I lost the Star. The Star Wars one, though.
You're gonna be a lot more mad when we talk after that.
It's completely fine. I was glad that it got to the speed round. Losing a couple of points always hurts, but knowing that you're able to fight back is one of those things that I really revel in. And I want to point it out. Nick took a page from my book. and chose unorthodox choices.
Mm.
Because if you go and you watch Nerd Fights, they asked who the worst Harry Potter character of all time is, and my answer was Dumbledore.
I know.
Because Dumbledore is a terrible old man. I love having these fights. These judges, y'all have been fantastic. I don't always agree with you, but I'm biased in that. So like, there's nothing that I can really say about that. And it's unfortunate that like we had to go to this speed round question, but I loved this speed round question. Like if this was a main fight question, this would have taken a week. You gave me 45 seconds.
Yes.
And I didn't even hear what half of you said about it. So
well, that'll be for the replay. You get to watch it again later.
Hell yeah.
All right. So good work, gentlemen. Jay is off to his next victim, and I'm sure Nick will be fighting somebody in some realm of the TMG or any of the other things out there. I want to thank Big Papa West. I want to thank Major Payne. This has been Nerd Fights. So you nerds around the world, keep fighting, and we'll keep watching it. All right. Take care, guys. Good night.